Premed Office Hours, episode 195.
Wow.
Hello, Courtney. How are you doing?
Hi. Good. 195 that's a high number. That's a lot of
Yeah,
meetings.
it's halfway to 200. That's Jessica Simpson math right there. I am so excited to be here today. I don't know if you can feel it, Courtney, the electricity in the air. TMDSAS, ACOMAS, AMCAS, all
Yep.
opening their doors next week. I can't believe this cycle is just fly.
Flying.
We're
Flying.
here.
Yeah.
We're here.
Yeah. No, it's, you know, not being one to actually physically submit an application, it's a really exciting time on this end just because students are kind of ironing out all the kinks. They're getting kind of excited about the package that they're putting together, last minute changes, strategies, stuff like that. So it can be a really fun time
Yeah.
if you're prepared.
Yeah. Let's talk about that, right? So before we jump in, I'm Dr. Ryan Gray, founder of Medical School Headquarters, co-founder at Mapped. I've written some books. I do some podcasts. The Premed Years is the main podcast these days. So go check those out if you haven't, including what is appropriate for this next week, the Premed Playbook Guide to the Medical School Application Process. You can go check that out anywhere books are sold.
Yeah.
And Courtney Lewis, former director of admissions at Burrell College of Osteopathic Medicine.
Yeah.
We are here to talk about applications and anything and everything. You just mentioned, Courtney, and I want to kind of jump on what you just said. Last minute changes to an application. What if
Mhm.
someone's listening to this, and it's very appropriate today? The yesterday was MCAT score release day, and so
Mhm.
lots of people, unfortunately,
Yeah.
wait until they get that MCAT score back to go, okay, I'm going to apply. And
Yeah.
they're not at last minute changes. They're at first minute planning. What
Yes.
is the change in mentality for you as you're advising a student to go, okay, it's almost end of April and we're starting from zero? Is that possible?
It is. Yes. It's going to take some strict discipline, I would say, and some strategic. Sorry, my dog keeps sticking her
Hello,
face up.
Pooch.
Some time management on their part because I would say the priorities will need to be, oh my goodness, at the personal statement and the activities and figuring out which platforms you're applying on, essentially, so you know how many different ways you have to write those two sections because the character counts will be different. From there, there's other little things, but those are the main time constraint type items that will hold you back from clicking submit for your primary application and then planning from there. So it's all about prioritization of most important. Just try as best you can to stick to that ideal timeline. But yes, it's possible. But what you don't want to do is just fling something in because you want to stick to that ideal timeline and it not be at the level of polish that it needs to be. Because
Yeah.
med schools are very egotistical and they're very nitpicky because they can be.
Yeah.
So you still need to proofread, you still need to be very thorough, you still need to be thoughtful about your tone and your word choice and your story. But yes, it's doable. We're helping people do that every day.
Yes, that's what we
Just a
do.
little more stress.
I put a coupon code up on the screen, PMOH, to save some money. I'm actually going to take that off and edit this one. We actually have a personal statement sale going on right now
We
because I know
do.
that is a huge stress for a lot of you, is finishing that personal statement. Again, if you want a book for that, I have a book for that. I got a book for everything. Personal statements normally are 225 for basically 6,000 characters. We do everything based on
Mhm.
character counts. We found it's the most flexible for students. If
Yeah.
you just want to submit one secondary or one activity or whatever, you can do things based on characters. Personal statements, obviously 5,300 characters. So you can get the 6,000 character for 150 right now. It's a big sale that ends next
That is
week,
a
end
big
of next
sale.
week. Yeah.
But if anything, and this is not a sales pitch, it's just being realistic. If anything, that you have an advisor or an expert look over personal statement and secondaries.
Yeah.
Other parts are also important, but for sure, those two, because one is going to be under a magnifying glass as your personal statement, as what's motivating you, what your passion for this path is, and it's very important. And the other has to relate to school specific, direct questions that you have to answer that need to be pretty compelling, because that's the last piece of the puzzle before they can evaluate you for an interview. So,
Yep.
those two areas at the bare minimum, get those reviewed.
Yeah. So again, medicalschoolhq.net, take advantage of that awesome personal statement sale happening right now. And because we listen to students, we had so much feedback going out. I want to pick my advisor. I want to pick the person that's going to edit it. You can do that now. When you go to submit your essay, you can pick one of the 3 main advisors that do these a la carte essays. Courtney, you are one of them. Dina is another one. And Verinia is our 3rd person right now. And if they're not on that list, that means they are full. And so you can either check back or submit to another editor, another expert admissions advisor. We all are experts here. So
that is the
slouches.
thing. We've all done this for our entire careers. So you're not going to get any lapse of knowledge or anything like that. It's just who's available. And if you're really have somebody in mind, sure, but don't feel like you're going to be at a deficit if you get somebody else. We're all doing it.
All doing it. All right, let's answer some questions. That's what we're here for. That's what the people want. Let's give the people what they want. We got lots of parents these days. Let me hold on one second. I need to adjust my camera. I'm too low compared to you. There we go. That's better. Now I feel taller.
Okay.
Okay. As I'm sitting here. Lots of parents. My son got a 515 on the MCAT with cars of 125. Should he retake it? This whole unbalanced MCAT question. Courtney, myth or real?
I would say if it was at extreme odds with the other sections, a 125 to me isn't in that extreme area, maybe quite yet. I would say we're talking a 123 or 122, and I know that doesn't seem like a big change. We're talking about 2 to 3 points.
Yeah.
It's significant when you're talking about percentages, but a 125 I've seen be able to go through. Now, as long as, if he's taking preview and Casper, doing well on those, making sure that, again, the essays are very thoughtfully written and I'm not having any concerns. And the reason that I say that is I don't want to pick up on a pattern of critical reasoning and things like that seem to be off in multiple locations. And so I wouldn't suggest a retake at this point unless anything significant has changed about the study strategy or how he's going to go about it. It's very risky to do a back-to-back. But that's
Especially
just
with
my take.
515. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a good score.
People that get 515s don't do that well on retakes. It improvement wise.
Yeah.
Yeah. Rock with it.
Yeah, I would.
Great.
It's a competitive score still.
Heck yeah. Project species. I'm using mapped GPA calculator. My college doesn't have the plus minus grading system. How should I input my grades? Can I have all A's as A pluses? No. enter them exactly as they are in your transcript. If they are A's, put A's. If they're B's, put B's. You don't need A pluses. You don't get bonus points for A pluses, unfortunately. No worries. Good job. Peter says, I'm finishing my postback this May of 2024. My application is ready. Is it, Peter? Have you had an essay edit from the Courtney Lewis? However, I am studying for the MCAT, and I think I may have to take it between August and September. Would this be too late? So just a rundown, Courtney, before I'll let you answer this one. Timing wise, for students who don't know, you can submit your application without an MCAT score. The MCAT score is not needed to submit your application. A lot, if not most, if not all medical schools will not look at your application to consider you for an interview. Most schools are going to send a secondary no matter what, even without that MCAT score, but most schools will not consider you for an interview until that MCAT score comes in. And so your application is going to sit in the corner until that score is in. Courtney, is taking it in August, they get it back in September. Taking it in September, they get it back in October. Is that too late? Is that risky? Pros, cons?
It's risky. Yeah, I mean, we can be honest, it's risky. It may be late for some schools, potentially not all. But the reason why it gets risky once you get off kind of the ideal timeline for a lot of schools is, so if the cycle opens, let's say you submit in June or somebody else is submitting in June, it's going to go out to the schools July. They resubmit their secondary beginning of August. They can be considered for an interview, and they're able to book usually 90 to 100 days, 120 days in advance, so a couple of months in advance. There's going to be hundreds of those candidates already filling up all of those interview slots because they've been able to turn around things really quickly to be up for consideration for interview. And that's what you need to be on time for. Now, do some schools have longer interview seasons? Yes. Do some schools have rolling admissions and they're willing to consider later submissions? Yes. So it's not all, but risky, yes.
Yeah.
It changes things. It changes the strategy for sure. You need to do a lot of research on the front end of what their application process looks like. You still need to get your application verified, I would say. What you don't want to do is kind of what we're seeing now, which is waiting until you get your score to submit for verification. You don't want to do that, especially when you're this late, because then we're talking about another 6 weeks after you click submit, after you've gotten your MCAT. I mean, you're essentially through an entire interview cycle. You're ruling yourself completely out at that point. So you still need to be submitted, verified, everything else is ready to go, and you're just waiting on the MCAT, but you're already out in there and verified. So if you need help with strategy, set up an appointment, because if you're thinking about doing this, you're going to have to be super thoughtful on some things.
Yes. And take the MCAT when you're ready.
Yeah, you don't want to rush it either. It's true.
Yeah. Good luck, Peter. All right. So Michaela has a question. I'm from a small state with only one state school. I'm assuming med school, but I want to move out of state for med school. Should I apply to my state school?
Not if you don't want to go there.
If you don't want to go there, don't apply. Yeah, it's interesting. I was watching a TikTok video of a pre-med student who has an acceptance. He's a non-trad student, has an acceptance, and he's thinking about turning it down.
Yeah.
And he has logical reasons. It's a newer school, it's less proven, blah blah blah. It's a lot more expensive than the school that he's waitlisted at, where he thinks he'll have a better chance if he reapplies. And I just was like, why did you apply there if you weren't going to go there? So
yep. Yeah, if some people talk about like these safety schools or things like that, as somebody who used to process applications, don't waste everybody's time, including yours. Don't waste time filling out that secondary. Don't pay the additional fees. Don't go through the whole process if you genuinely don't want to be there. It's a waste of everybody's time and resources. So, if it was the only one that gave you an accept, like this kid, if it was the only one that gave you an accept and you wouldn't take it and you'd rather roll the dice next cycle, don't designate. It's not helping anyone. It's not helping anybody. It's clogging the system, and you're not going to be happy. You're not going to want to go there. We're not going to be happy because you just turned down an offer and we spent valuable interview slots and resources on you. So no one wins.
Let me ask the Illuminati question that everyone has on their mind. Is there a secret list somewhere that you, as the director of admissions, can go and put this student on the list to go, this student was accepted and declined us, and we know that he didn't go anywhere for this cycle?
That's available to all of the other schools?
That, yes, basically as a warning to all the other schools, be like, this student is a flake, don't accept him. Doesn't exist.
I don't think so.
Yeah, I don't think so either. I know students are worried about it.
I don't think so, but that doesn't, I mean, I've blacklisted students on a national level for falsifying some information. I mean, and that goes out to everybody. But as far as declining an offer, I think it's just within your system, you'll be able to see that. But I'm not sure other schools will be able to.
Yeah. Okay. What does that look like, blacklisting a student on a kind of a national level? Is that just kind of emailing all your director of admission buddies going?
No.
Or is there like a list somewhere?
No, you contact AAMC or
ACOM
and let them know. They do an investigation. The applicant is able to potentially appeal. If they are not able to provide that information to clear their name, they are no longer able to apply to med school. And it's unfortunate,
so it's an
but it's
official
happened.
thing. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Caught a couple.
Moral
Don't
of
do
the
it.
story, friends, don't lie. Which
Don't do
again
it.
is one of those things that, like, TMDSAS, I think, does it right, where they assume the good, that most people aren't lying, and so they don't do the verification stuff until the very end, once you're accepted.
Yeah.
So, all right. Wonderful questions today. Keep it going. Verdant, struggling a little bit. Sophomore undergrad, my third semester in university, taking microbio this semester, and I did very bad, getting a C. Should I retake it? Microbio, for most schools, is not going to be a prereq, Courtney.
Yep.
A C is passing if it was a prereq. C- is not passing for most med schools. Right. Should Verdant retake it or just move on? Take the L and move on.
At this point, I'd move on, especially if it's a C and not a C-. I would, even if it was a C-, not one of the technically required courses. So I would move on. You're going to be going into heavier science coursework and adding on this class on top of the other required courses that you're going to have to take that put you on sequence to take your MCAT and things like that. I think it kind of muddies the water. Now, if you get to late in your education, you have a little bit more flexibility just because of how things were sequenced out, then potentially, but just know each grade is going to count towards your GPA calculation. So even if you retake it and get an A, both the C and the A will count in that GPA, even if that's not how your school does it. So this is something I would table until you know that you have some free time. 1C won't keep you out of med school. It won't. But go forward, don't let it happen again, know what you did wrong, fix it, because some of these other things are going to be very important that you get A's and B's in if you can. So, yeah.
Yes. A good question from Andres about virtual versus in-person. With COVID, almost everything went to virtual. Some schools are doing virtual and in-person, and there's always a concern. If offered the choice and I choose virtual, am I going to be looked at as lesser than in that school's eyes? Courtney, for schools, and I don't know if you know anyone that's doing kind of virtual and
hybrid
in person. Are they? You would have to assume they're trying to look at everyone on a level playing field. In terms of whether they choose to do virtual or in person. I don't know. I go to my gut and going in person, just you get a different vibe. You get a different connection with people versus virtual. But in terms of the weight of the technical scoring and stuff, you have to assume that med schools are not giving any extra points to people who come in person, right?
Yeah, I mean, as somebody who was a director during COVID and we were having to kind of navigate that, and then post COVID, these discussions about hybrid formats and fairness and stigmas and things like that, I've been very much a part of that discussion on a national level. Yes, there are a lot of things in place to remove as much of that bias as possible. A lot of schools went fully virtual because they've seen the benefit of doing that, but they will allow for in-person interviews in case people are from the area and they want to come, or mainly to kind of sell their campus. I would say it helps them too if you're on campus to do their interview and actually see the resources, talk to some of the students, see the space instead of being kind of detached on a screen. So a lot of the times they open it up in hopes that some people will come, or at least offer them the opportunity. But I don't think you're going to be slapped on the wrist for not doing that. I think they just want it as an option at this point.
Mm-hmm.
Um, it's good to be able to see the campus. I've heard many cycle over that students really get a lot from being in person, but no,
Yeah.
I mean, either one, whatever works, do that. But
Yeah.
if you can go, you're going to have to spend a lot of time on that campus. So if you can go and get a sense of the vibe, I would do it. It's worth your while. If
Yeah.
you're going to invest all that money and time and your medical education into it.
Go check it out.
Yeah.
GK, have it your way. Last cycle, I had a physician letter. However, I've not been able to reach the physician for this cycle. Does it make a difference to have a physician letter?
Mm-hmm.
If the med school requires a physician letter, then
Yeah.
it makes a difference. Courtney, can they reuse the physician letter, assuming they have access to upload it again?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep. Pretty straightforward. You can. Ideal, maybe not, no, but can you? Yes. What you don't want to do is not meet a published requirement for letters of recommendation that you have to submit. So if this is something, yeah, that is already in your application that you're going to roll over, so be it.
Yeah.
I would use it.
Yeah. I
If
keep
you don't have
saying
anything else.
I keep saying there's no data to support this decision, but I would assume, and I don't know, based on your experience as director of admissions, that there are somewhat a not insignificant number of students not getting into specific schools that maybe they thought they had a chance at because they don't meet the letter of recommendation requirements, and the school's just sitting there going, "You're missing a letter. We're not going to tell you. It's up to you." Right? I'm busy.
100%.
Yeah.
100% that happens.
Yeah.
I saw that happen every single cycle to hundreds of applicants because they just didn't submit the right letters, or
Not a
even that
choose your own
they,
adventure, people.
yep, or even that the letters just weren't properly formatted and there was no way
Yeah.
to kind of really verify them.
Yeah.
This will hold up. You will not get into med school on a letter of recommendation, even though you did everything else right. So
Written on a napkin.
absolutely, please just meet the requirements that are published, because legally they can't matriculate you unless you've met all of the published requirements that they have. It's not this gray area. I would get sued. I'm not going to risk my career over you not turning in what you need to. That is just like the bare bones of it. So yes, absolutely. I feel very one because it is legal ramifications potentially. You have to.
Yes. You're back. You broke up
I'm
for a
back.
second.
You're back.
All right. Hello. Which brings me to the next question, right? What are the requirements for LORs? Because they're I don't know if they're kind of buried somewhere, maybe in the handbooks or something. But when students submit, at least for Mapped Pro, you get My LORs, which is part of that, where we can store the letter for you. We review it to make sure it has letterhead,
Mhm.
a date, a signature, contact information. and then just triple checking that it's written actually for you, right? That your name is the one that it's for. Those are the things that we review. We took that from TMDSAS because they have their own process to verify application or verify letters of recommendations before pushing them out to schools. And so we figured they're probably the strictest, and that's what we do. Is there anything else that you would look for in a letter, or was it just those main things?
Those main things. Yeah. I mean, sometimes we would get questions about, well, the faculty member that I asked is now either retired or at a different institution, and so it wouldn't be the same. Just use what they have and the contact information just so we can verify, because there have been many times where I've reached out to referees to make sure that it was authentic. So yeah, that's what you need.
Good job. Jawad, would 24 credits of postback be enough with 2 semesters of an upward trend plus 24 credits of postback 3-3 cumulative 3-3 science?
Enough for what?
To get through the gauntlet of the admissions process. All right, there's so much more information here needed. Jawad, is the 3-3 and 3-3 for both, is that your kind of final numbers, or is that the 24 credits of postback before the 24 credits of upward trends? There's just not enough.
This is a big question.
Yeah. This is a good use for using Mapped Pro and chatting with one of our advisors and making sure that we can take a look at all of your graphs and trends and all of that and get you the best advice possible.
Yeah.
Trisha has an interesting question. I'm having a hard time figuring out what classes to take as a psychology major. The requirements for every school is different, so it's hard to pinpoint what to take. In general, Courtney, we say 1 year of biology, general biology, 1 year of general chemistry, 1 year of organic chemistry, one semester of all those with labs, 1 semester of biochemistry with a lab, typically 1 semester of physics with a lab, and then the other stuff kind of sprinkled in: psychology, sociology, English, potentially being on there as well. Yeah, Trisha,
and
gotta
math.
go look at the schools and sometimes math. Yep. Gotta go look at the schools, but those are the big ones.
I would say a year of physics.
Yeah, I did say a year of physics. Yeah.
You said.
Did I say 1 semester? Oh, 1 year. Sorry, I meant a year.
Okay.
Yeah. Physics is my favorite. I love physics. I'm a nerd like that.
That is my worst nightmare. It's my absolute worst nightmare.
Although I wouldn't say it was my favorite. I actually loved organic chemistry. I was one of those nerds.
Okay.
I was a nerd who took an accelerated organic and biochem together. It was 2 semesters instead of 3 semesters total. Because the professor was supposed to be amazing, and I'm like, I'm gonna take it. Let's try it. And yeah, he was awesome, and it did not disappoint. So
yeah, if I had to save my life by figuring out a physics problem, it wouldn't happen.
Goodbye, world.
It wouldn't happen.
I do not know how to push this up an inclined plane.
Yeah, a fly is going this speed, and the car is coming this speed, and the wind is going this way. Like, what happens? I don't know. I'm
what
dead.
color is the train's eyes?
Yeah. It's been a good ride, you know.
Trisha, ideally you have an advisor on campus. Go chat with them. They can help you out. But yeah, psychology is a very common major. You are not alone in this world.
Yeah. And make sure that you're because of psychology being a behavioral science, you're still going to need letters. I would say you're in a safer area if you get letters of recommendation from those core prerequisite professors. So build relationships with them, because usually a science letter of recommendation from a professor in that department won't count as one of your core science professors. So it's important to establish relationships with them as well, even though you're not in that major.
Yeah. Araceli, being a reapplicant, I'm worried that I may not get a good MCAT score if I were to submit my application before getting my score to be verified. Should I still do what is recommended? This is the fear, right, Courtney? Is
Yeah.
we're telling students submit before you get your score, and they're like, but that costs money, and I don't know if my score is going to be good enough. So it's always a personal decision to take
Yeah.
that risk, but you only need to apply to one school to submit your application, and so that's what I recommend a lot is just submit to one school, wait for that score to come back. In between submitting and waiting for that score, you're working on secondaries as if you're going to apply to the 15 or 20 schools or whatever it is. But only one school is officially submitted, and then you get your score back. It's good. You add all the other schools. There's no delay, a consequential delay that would hurt you. So that's the game.
Kind of a sneaky way around it, but yes, I agree.
Yeah. I don't know why they like, let me just submit my application without a school. Why do I need to add a school to it? That's just seems like a arbitrary rule that they have. I'm sure AMCAS would love to take all of that money and a COMIS, like all the students who are afraid of being a reapplicant to
Uh-huh.
that one school, and so they don't apply. Like, take my money, let me submit my application, and then I'll add the schools if I choose to add the schools.
Yeah. I think it's to just utilization of their resources, making sure that they're going through the verification process through a third party and
Yeah. Are
contracting
getting
with them
paid.
that it's being
They're
used. Yeah.
they're getting paid.
Hmm.
I mean, AMCAS and AAMC do everything possible to enrich their coffers. So
They do.
I was looking at their at least most recent available. I forget the tax form 991 or something like that. 90 form 90. The not nonprofit kind of tax forms.
Hmm.
They're doing well. They have over $600
Yeah.
million of net assets.
Well, and that's why we will never, and I've been part of these conversations. That's why we'll never have a combined only one application for med school. That's
My money.
why the
My
board
money.
tests are separate and things like that is because they're almost the sole kind of revenue builders for each of these establishments. So
Yeah.
it's not going to happen. There's too much money associated.
Yep. Thanks, America. So let me just
Unfortunately.
clarify for all of you listening. Nonprofit does not mean can't make profit. The
Yeah.
AAMC, the perfect example of that, sitting on tons and tons of cash and trying to figure out more ways to take cash out of your pocket.
Mhm.
Uh, I love you, AAMC. Amelia asks, are there risks to going to a newly opened medical school? I've heard that financial aid is different for unaccredited medical schools, but is there anything else to be aware of? Just one point of clarification. New medical schools are accredited. They are preliminarily accredited. They do not get full accreditation until their first class graduates. So just a point of clarification. But yeah, Courtney, unfortunately, and again, this is an arbitrary thing that I didn't know about until a few years ago. Preliminarily accredited schools are not eligible for financial aid.
Mhm.
Seems dumb, especially for medical school. Like we
Yeah.
it's not like a random pop up, and not to be negative towards beauty schools, but just something random, right? It's a medical school in this country. We don't have any history of schools popping up one year and going away the next year to try to like make money, right?
Yeah.
These are institutions that are around that take a long time to get going. It seems like the Department of Education would have a carve out for these kind of institutions for financial aid, but
Yeah. Uh, you can still get as long as your credit score and everything. I mean, what you get from the government as far as loans may not be as good of a rate as you can get privately. So it may not be the worst thing. Maybe for some it will affect it, but I would say, as somebody who went through the entire accreditation process and kind of sat on all of those meetings every single year and stuff like that, I feel like I can answer this question. Risks associated. I think it depends on who you are. And it's not necessarily risk, but more so nuances or challenges that may be presented by coming to a newly open medical school. So, for example, curriculum. If you've gone to a school that's been open for 100 years, they've pretty much got it set. There's not going to really be a lot of new innovations or changes to like when labs are, when they flow, and things like that. Whereas with the newer medical school, some of those things may still be in flux as they're kind of building out the structure of their curriculum. That works just fine for people, some people. For those that are very strict with their schedules, plan everything out to the minute, having a lab go from a Thursday to a Tuesday may be incredibly stressful. That may not be the best school for you then. I think on the flip side, it also provides a lot of really amazing opportunities that I know my prior students really benefited from and were able to get national leadership positions because of. And that's opening new chapters or charters of clubs and organizations, kind of starting that, getting leadership opportunities, being involved with the community, because you're kind of laying the ground for all of those chapters and organizations, and you get to interface. Whereas at some other kind of established schools, you have to wait until third or fourth year before you can be involved in that, or there's no opportunity to start something new. So there's give and take, I would say. Risks, I would say, are actually minimal. It's just more things are in flux. The reason that I say risks are minimal, and I'm going way over on this explanation, but the reason that I say risks are minimal is because, I mean, they dig through your files. I can attest to that. Every single year, they are on campus. There is a council that sends representatives.
They the accreditation body,
Yes,
right?
the accrediting body. And I mean, we would have handbooks this big of everything, everything having to do with our school. And they would dig through it, and then we would have meetings about it every single year. And if anything was even just slightly off, or they wanted to see something changed, you get flagged for that thing. And then by the next visit, it has to be resolved. So it's actually a really good thing in making sure. There's plenty of schools that maybe need to have an update on that, kind of like a driver's license, where it's like, ooh, maybe we should go back in there and look at, all of the things going on. So there are less just risks like that associated with it.
Good
There's things in
answer.
place.
Yeah.
If you want to talk at more length about that, I'm happy to discuss it.
Yeah. And there are some schools you'll see. Kaiser did it. UT Tyler did it. Lots of these new schools that open up because they know of the challenges with the federal financial aid, as they will, as part of their fundraising efforts to start the school, raise enough money to fund the first classes going through, so you get free tuition at those
Or,
schools.
yeah, or with private institutions, you have to set up a trust that would be able to refund all of the students if for some reason you don't get accredited. But there's so many checks ahead of that point
Yeah.
that not happening, or I guess reaching full accreditation, that not happening is, it's not the regular for sure.
Yeah.
But yeah, there's a lot of things that go into this. And then new location or new campus versus branch campus that falls under the prior accreditation. These are all very different terms that mean different things with accreditation. So again,
Yeah.
happy to go into more detail about that at another time.
Yeah, I just learned, and I don't know if you knew this, Ponce, or Ponce,
Mhm.
however, whatever, the Puerto Rican medical school opened up a St. Louis branch
I didn't
campus.
know that. Mm-mm.
Yeah, so they now have I mean, the Puerto Rican schools are U.S. medical schools,
Right.
but they have a school in St. Louis now that is not it's not a new accreditation. They use the Puerto Rico accreditation to open up this campus, and so kind of go against all these different rules and ways to do things. But yeah, it's a whole new school in St. Louis that I didn't know about.
I feel like that's almost riskier than a brand new school that has to go through the full check.
Yeah.
But that's just me.
Yeah.
There's reasons for that.
Shortcuts involved. Yeah. And the parents are far away. The kids are running amok many miles away from the home.
Yeah. And you could tell, like, I mean, this is why I ran for an elected role, is because I live in this stuff. I love all of this, like, bureaucratic policy and processes and procedures and stuff like that on that national scale for MDDO and Texas. And so but there's a lot of frustrations too.
Yeah. Somebody has got to do it. Speaking of calculating, I scored a 518 on my MCAT in 2021. I want to apply this upcoming cycle. Is this score too old? Calculating is very easy. Go to the medical school websites, go to the MSAR, and they will tell you 2021 is probably too old for most schools, if not all. So, yeah, very late in the game to be making that realization. I am sorry, but you will probably have to retake that, almost guaranteed. But you got a 518 once. Do it again. Good job. Courtney, why does the MCAT score expire? Besides to make more money.
Oh, then nothing.
Okay.
No. As time elapses, are you forgetting information that we need you to have fresh on your mind to build off of? Are you a different student? Things like that. And so as more time kind of gets away from you, the less they feel like that may be still an accurate representation of those types of things. So they ask you to retake it. Yeah.
Good answer. Love it. Love it.
Is that a pageant answer?
Yeah, no, I do accept that answer. It's good.
Okay.
How do medical schools view completed incompletes?
Okay.
Seems like an
I know.
oxymoron.
Okay.
AMCAS is reporting my incomplete as 2 courses with similar but different names, i.e. Introduction to Ecology and Behavior versus Intro, Eco, and Behavior. Yeah, I have no idea. That's such a
I have no idea
question.
with this one.
Yeah.
Because that's not the same as one course as an incomplete. Do you mean that you got an IE for one and retook it and got a grade and they're just labeled differently?
Yeah.
This is a weird question. Yeah.
Yeah. At the end of the day, however it looks on your transcript is how you should put it in the application, and they'll do what they'll do.
Yep.
Ari, I got an interview invite from a school without an MD/DO letter, but was able to submit one post-interview. Do you think that this will help my chances of becoming accepted? So, Ari, the question is, was an MD or DO letter required?
Yeah.
I doubt it. I mean, maybe, even if you got an interview, but was it required? So.
It may have been verbiage that was like clinician, right? Which gives you a little bit more flexibility, or this shows that they are doing post-interview thorough evaluation when it goes to the AdCom and maybe less on the front side, but could potentially, if they will add things to your application for consideration. A lot of times they won't, but potentially.
Potentially. Always. Potentially. This is kind of a follow-up question earlier to Jawad's question. It looks like maybe he was doing his postback classes online. Any issues there? Extension has a postback for academic enhancers and is 24 credits tailored. I can't tell if he's looking at doing more or if this is what he did do. let's say that he's looking at doing this and hasn't done this. Online postback classes for record enhancing, academic enhancing.
Not ideal. Again, like if we label things like good, better, best,
Mm-hmm.
not best,
Not best.
acceptable,
Yeah.
maybe.
Maybe. Yeah.
This is a risky thing. I think any online coursework, even if it's not your core prereqs, is not ideal. So how much stock they're really going to put into these grades if you did it online? Probably not much. If I know faculty members who are all very proud of their academic records and things like that. So, will it be accepted? Maybe. Risky, yes. Very risky.
Yes. Will it be accepted? Possibly. But will it
Possibly.
be helpful?
No,
Less likely.
not really. Yeah.
Especially to show that academic enhancement. Sarah, is being a forensic autopsy technician clinical experience? Love this question. So dead patients, are they patients? Is that clinical?
Yeah.
I heard conflicting advice about whether this is patient care and if I should get another experience. I do have shadowing with live patients. It's good. Human patients, I hope.
Yeah.
Clinical?
Yeah. It's just a different setting, but if you're actually doing hands-on investigation or help with that kind of stuff, then yes, it counts. I've sat in on AdCom meetings. This isn't a common experience for people to have, but it's still a human being, still needs the same level of respect, still touching a body, interfacing with a patient, just a different way. So, and it's good that you have the live patient experience. What I will say is you need to be very careful about how you write about this experience. People are not puzzles. You need to come across as very compassionate with somebody. The body is still somebody's body, even if they are no longer living. And if you veer on detached or morbid or just kind of, this was so exciting and fascinating, the AdCom is not going to like that. They will be concerned with your bedside manner potentially in the future. So you'll need to be very thoughtful in how you frame and phrase the essays around this.
Did your school have a cadaver anatomy lab?
Yeah, through Texas Tech.
What was the general consensus around cadaver privacy and respect and all that stuff?
Yeah, so very stringent, very focused on respect for people who have donated, which I appreciate because part of my brother was donated to a medical school to learn from. And so I appreciated the level at which they wanted to be very thoughtful about, when the cadaver was out on the table, it being covered, only parts that needed to be exposed were exposed. People weren't just coming in and out. The verbiage that you use when talking about the patient or cadaver needed to be strictly policed by yourself and others. So, yeah.
Yeah, it was the same at my school. It was our anatomy professor was a monk, Professor Pravitz, Dr. Pravitz. So very, very much kind of a I can't think of the right word. Anyway, very respectful, strict, all that stuff, access, like no cameras, no pictures, no nothing.
Right.
And then I saw recently an advisor like go on a med school tour with students and like taking pictures in the anatomy lab. I'm like, what is this? Like, I guess there are some schools that don't follow that. But
Oh,
yeah, I
okay.
find it very weird.
Yeah.
So anyway,
Yeah.
to each their own, I guess.
Cool experience.
Sure. Bro Dio. Is a July 2023 preview score fine to use for schools that require the exam? So preview, for those who don't know, Courtney, is the AAMC kind of version or competition to Casper. Both of them are situational judgment tests. I'm pretty sure that preview is not one that you have to retake. At least that's how they initially set it up. So I would go and check, bro. But as far as I know, preview scores are usable after the year. Casper is not. Casper, you have to retake year after year after year. I've asked our friends at Casper why that is, and they say you are scored against your peers. And so if your peers change every year, then you need a new score. That's their rationale. Also known as make some more money. Although they are, I don't know if they officially are. They are trying to be a B Corp, which is a very strict corporation that is trying to do good in the world. So, but as we see with nonprofits, you could still. Anyway,
just so you know, since you weren't on the workshop when we were going over SGTs,
yeah,
I rock it. I'm so good at. I'm so good at situational judgment. I got everyone exactly right. I was so proud of myself. So
they're fun.
That's my little bragging right. Since I can't do physics, I can do situational
so you're
judgment.
Saying students who want to prepare for their MMI or maybe do some Casper prep as a mock review, that they should come work with you.
Yeah, I'm really good.
Yeah.
I can't do physics, but I can do this.
And again, friends, don't forget, applications are opening next week. You can submit a COMIS immediately. You can submit TMD SAS. I believe it is May 14th, I think, off the top of my head. There's a couple week delay. And then AMCAS is the end of May. I think May 28th, potentially. Check me. If you need some help with your personal statements, we have a big sale going on right now for your personal statement. That's one edit. If you want more edits, you can always get more. But hopefully that will help, and you can pick your advisor to look at them. What's the biggest thing you look for in a personal statement, Courtney?
Easy to follow, kind of flow, where I'm not having to like read and reread, like where are we even at right now? Making sure that the content is applicable to the prompt and checking for tone. Those would be kind of my 3 things that become the most obvious and will sway. I think I've seen the most people are those 3 things. So it's not the craziest story or, having the most experience in one area. It seems to revolve much more about compelling people in those 3 ways.
But what if they tell you that they are the most dedicated student and the hardest working?
They don't know that.
I love it. Courtney Lewis, thanks for hanging out today. If you would like to spend some time with Courtney one-on-one, go over to medicalschoolhq.net, sign up for some advising. That's what we do to support us hanging out here with you for this hour. Applications open next week. Let us help you be prepared and rock your essays and your interviews and all that good stuff.
I don't need to sleep for these next couple of weeks, so
these next
bring it on.
These next 6 weeks or so are pretty crazy for us. We got it.
I'll take some Red Bull. Let's go. I'm ready for this.
Thank you all for hanging out. We are here most Wednesdays at 1 p.m. Eastern, and then this coming Friday, I think. No, next Friday. I am doing Instagram Live. I do Instagram Live most Fridays at 11 a.m. Eastern. Next Friday, I'm doing it with Blueprint. And oh, by the way, we give away some Blueprint goodies during that Instagram
Mm.
Live. So come join over there. Everyone, have a wonderful day. We'll see you soon.